Got some gray and silver hairs. Are we live on YouTube yet? Looks like it. We are gonna. Hmm. Beautiful. Just getting ready to get started here. Stand by. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes from Instagram. Participant. There we go. Christina, I see you in the Zoom meeting. Thank you for coming. Welcome. It is now 1 o'clock. Ava's here. Again, if you're on Instagram, you're welcome to join at creativetc.io/event. In fact, I'll just post a link directly to Zoom there. Normally you have to sign up, but during the live event, I'm just going to put the link directly on that page. Did you guys know? In fact, let me just share screen. I love Google Sites a lot. So check this out. Google Sites allows me, that's where I built my website. So creativetc.io runs on Google Sites, and it's this easy to edit. Check it out. I can go to pages. I go to the event page and I'll just double click, add text. We're live now. Click to join, insert a link, Bing, drag this up to its own box, center it, make the text like a title. Oh yeah, the little sections are pretty easy to get figured out here. Center it. There we go. We're live now and then publish. It's like, here's your draft. Here's what's current. You're about to do that. Are you sure? I'm like, yep. I love Google Sites. If you've never seen it, Google Sites works real nice. So now you can go to creativetc.io/event and you'll be able to just click to join straight into the Zoom. Thank you for those who have joined the Zoom meeting. Welcome. There we go. Now I can spotlight. Have you any questions? If not, I've got a RAPS outline to start working through, and I'm going to test it out on you. I just got, ooh, you know what? I just got paid $9,000. This is good news. $9,000 came in from a property where I put a memorandum on it 2 years ago, by the way. 2 years ago, I had a memorandum, placed it. The sellers refused to close with me. And here I am. I said, hey guys, I didn't force you to close. I didn't force you to sell to me at the time because I didn't want to be a trash bag because you guys had young kids and life circumstances actually hit you pretty hard. But you can't just cancel unilaterally, especially since I spent money and time. And so they didn't respond to that. They blocked me, they blacked me out, etc. So I left the memorandum and I waited until they could get back on their feet, etc. And I told him, I said, look, I've already spent $1,500. I've got a contract to assign this to somebody. I can go talk to them. We can negotiate. We can delay the closing. We can do something, but you can't just walk away and do nothing. I don't know if you guys know this, but sellers can't just unilaterally cancel. So I expected to make about $17,000 on that deal at the time. I already had an assignment contract, but the sellers refused to move forward. So I just left the memorandum. They had a 1-year-old. The property they were gonna buy suddenly was unavailable to them anymore. So like real life circumstances happen, but that doesn't mean they can just snub me, you know? So I tried to tell them this, and their complaint or response was, yeah, well, you started doing this to help us, right? It was going to be a hybrid, Sub-2 and seller finance. You started doing this to help us, but now you're not helping us. It seems pretty unfair. And I'm like, we were helping each other. I'm in a business to do this, but like I also have a family and I just spent $1,500 putting this up and on listing services and other things like that and soliciting partners, spending marketing, lots of stuff and untold hours getting this deal to where it is now. So no, you can't just walk away. Like you can pay me. for the time. And I realized life happened. And so we can negotiate something, but you can't just one way do that. And they just went dark. So 2 years later, here we are. It's just before the 2 year mark. And I'm aware of something called the defense of latches. Remind me, and I'll get back to that in a second. But that's why I reached out before 2 years was up, lest they pull that on me. And I said, hey, guess what? This was my phone does that. This was the this was the bluff. I wasn't actually ready to take him to court. I figured I could probably find a buyer, but I didn't think they still wanted to sell. So I reached out. I said, "Hey, you guys, it's been almost 2 years. It's time. I'm ready to move forward. I planned to make 17,000. I plan to make more than that now. I'm ready to buy or sue, whichever way you want to go. If you want to make it easy on us and we're good to go, great. But you know what? If you're still living in the property and don't have other prospects, I'm okay to negotiate. I've been to court and I've won before, and it wasn't all it's cracked up to be, right? The people who made money were the attorneys. That's a fact. And neither side was very happy with it. I technically won, but it didn't put money in my pocket. Um, and both sides paid attorneys. So, given the size of my anticipated profit here, between your attorney's fees and my attorney's fees, that would all get eaten up. Okay. So, but I've got the law on my side. I know I can win this one, and it will make me money when we close on it. So I'm ready to move forward. Keep in mind, attorney's fees are somewhere between $5,000 and $12,000 per side here, and the winner gets recouped from the loser. And I sent them a link to a couple of articles where sellers can't unilaterally cancel. I sent them screenshots of where they had said we're not selling to you. All right, so I put it all together, and I showed them a copy of the recorded memorandum against the against their property on the public records. And they said, well, we still don't want to move out. I said, okay. I was expecting to make $17,000, but if we make this fast and easy, I'll take a settlement. I'll settle for less, and you guys can stay in the property, and I will release all claim at that time. If you're on Instagram, you can join the live Zoom at creativetc.io/event. There's a link there. Evan Ragsdale just showed up. What a party. Um, Shoot, man, this is great. So I'm getting paid on a memorandum, and I told him, I'll settle. I'll settle for less than the 17. And I said, what's your proposal? And they tried to not give the number first, and I didn't give the number first. Um, and I said, I'm looking for a monetary dollar value because I don't know if they didn't actually get it or if they were playing dumb. And I said, you can buy out my interest and I'll walk away. This is a monetary thing for me. It's a job. I already spent $1,500, but I'm expecting to make profit. I'm going to make a profit one way or another here. I'm aware that you no longer have a business loan. Like I remembered their story. They no longer have a business loan in place, so they're in a better position to be able to pay. And they said, would you take 2/3? I said, um, if you put me on payments over time, I'll take X. And if you want to settle, a little bit more negotiation, they came back with, can we just pay $9,000 one time and be done? And I said, yep. And they sent me the check, and I sent them a cancellation of contract and released the memorandum of contract. And I closed escrow with Horan Real Estate. I sent the mutual cancellation there. I think I've got $15 coming back from EMD. I had $50 EMD on that deal, and 35 of it got used up to record the release of memorandum. Oh, but defensive latches. Thanks for reminding me. Haha. The defensive latches has to do with if you wait too long to exercise a right, it is deemed to have been waived. And so if you have a memorandum on a property and you wait 10 years, probably they can just bring up defensive latches. Like if you wanted to buy the property, you could have, should have sued by now and you didn't. So, nah. And I didn't want them to be able to bring that up. I wanted to make a compelling case for them. This is going to be way easier for everybody if you just pay me some money and I'll go away. So it's very timely. It's a good time to be bringing those funds in. But they sent, I saw a wire for $9,000, I think a week or two ago. I messaged him back and said, "Thank you guys. Here is the cancellation of contract, and here is a copy of the recorded release of memorandum." Now, the title company took a couple of days back and forth, but we got it all done, and I got paid off. So that's a successful memorandum story, but it was 2 years in the making. Somebody earlier this week, by the way, came in and asked on my office hours. You guys know that I have office hours 5 days a week right now. Next week, I'm going to Squat Up Summit, so I won't host them. So we did 1 week on. Now we're going to do 1 week off. But when I get back, from 1 to 1:30 p.m. and 4:30 to 5 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thursdays, we're doing the 1 hour right here, right now, just like this. And we're looking at also doing Saturdays, every other Saturday. So if you have questions, bring them. But I just want to highlight sometimes stuff happens and deals that look good go south, no fault of your own or outside of your control. And it gets to, especially if it's a creative deal sub two, what are you going to do? Sue for specific performance, sue for them to violate the terms of their contract with the mortgage company? I don't think so. It's not going to go that well. Technically, you can win in court, but what do you actually win? You probably win a due on sale. You know what I mean? So it's critical for wholesalers to establish a clear understanding between all parties at the very beginning of any deal that involves subject to. Like, make them confirm, put it in their own words that they understand. It's not worth all the time and effort to get a deal close to the finish line, especially if you have an assignee, and then have it fall apart because this is weird. I don't think I understand. I never understood this. I don't give my consent anymore. Well, technically, they can't withdraw their consent because they have a legally binding contract. But real life says, yeah, go ahead and sue for specific performance on a sub two and see how things go for you. You're going to spend 10, 12, 15 grand, maybe not get the money back. Maybe it becomes a discount against the purchase price. Good for you. But you just bought a due on sale. I can all but guarantee it. They're gonna do something and it's not gonna go that well. Okay? It's just crazy like that. And here I am spilling coffee. Hold on, we had a comment in here. So used to breakout rooms. The Zoom interface is different when you have breakout rooms. The chat's easily available. Ava says, I heard that the mirror wrap is referenced in the VA closing documents. Negative. I'll show you the document that I know what you're talking about. That the VA, it's referenced in the VA closing documents. Hence, if closing on a mirror wrap, the loan cannot be called due. Is that true? No, but there is a good answer. I do have some positive news for you. And would you have a link to the mirror wrap reference in the documents? I tried to find that too, and I couldn't either. What I did find was, and if you're on Instagram, you're going to miss this, and I'll send it as a PDF in the Zoom chat here. So get on creativetc.io/event and you can get on the Zoom chat. Listen, I'll find this for you. VA pamphlet. It is VA pamphlet chapter 20, it's number 26-7, chapter 5, section 6S. There's a mouthful for you. Hold on. Let me pull it down and I'll put it up on screen real quick. Downloads. Here we go. I'm dropping it in the Zoom chat. You guys can reshare it. It's free to share. I mean, it's a public document, so rock and roll with that baby, all you want. Let's look at this again. I'm going to share screen on the Zoom and on YouTube. All right. Chapter 6, processing loan assumptions by the current servicer or holder of the VA loan. This is continued section. Section number, letter S. Letter S, unrestricted transfers. So this is a category. This is a chunk. This is an excerpt of a big document, by the way. So you're going to want to go read the full document if you want the absolute full context. But our goal is to find what constitutes an unrestricted transfer for the purpose of due on sale. Unrestricted transfers. Certain transfers of ownership, otherwise subject to 38 U.S.C., blah, 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 do not require prior approval by the holder, a holder, or the VA itself. Loans may not be accelerated due to these types of transfers. One more time. Loans may not be accelerated due to these types of transfers. And then it goes on to have a list. Unrestricted transfers include the creation of a lien subordinate to the lender's security instrument. So if you get a second position loan after closing that was not pre-planned, um, then you're fine, right? A water lien, water softener lien, solar lien, HELOC, a second mortgage, any of that stuff. They can't accelerate due on sale or do a due on sale acceleration because of that. Okay. Because that is a transfer of interest. You guys, I want you to understand this. That is a transfer of interest in the property because when you make a mortgage, golly, there's so many things to say here. When you do a mortgage, you are actually granting interest in the property to that third party, the lender, the mortgagee, or the beneficiary of a deed of trust. They're getting a security interest in the property. So you have conveyed interest in the property to another party. Without any qualifications, that's a violation of due on sale. If you're not allowed to transfer any interest to any other party, that would be a due on sale event. So they're saying unrestricted transfers include the creation of a lien or other encumbrance. Okay, so second position liens are good. The creation of a security interest for household appliance. That's just another like the water softener lien. It's just additional liens. A transfer by device descent of operation of law, the death of a joint tenant. So you got family transfers, okay? A lease of 3 years or less, not including an option to purchase. We'll get to it. It's on the next page. The answer is on the next page, how to do these. A transfer to a relative, that's a family transfer when the spouse or child becomes a joint owner. So if you add a family member to the deed, that's a conveyance of interest. You've given them 10, 20, 25, 50%, whatever interest. That's not a due on sale event. Into an inter vivos trust, where the beneficiary, the person, the seller or borrower remains a beneficiary and does not relate to a transfer of rights of occupancy in the property. Okay, so they're qualifying this. If you throw it into a trust and you no longer have rights to occupy the property, it's clear that you're transferring it for the benefit of somebody else, and that is a due on sale event. But if it's for you and you remain the beneficiary and you retain rights to possess the property and live in it, then it's fine, just like the Garn St. Germain Act. Otherwise, they can call due on sale, even in a land trust. Sorry about it. And it would be on you to prove that you did it lawfully. A transfer resulting from so divorce situations. Okay. Court orders to separate or shift or move partial ownership. Okay. Those are reasons. And then we get unrestricted transfers continued. Hey, that's not what I meant to click. The VA, listen, especially on Instagram, the VA does not consider a sale on installment contract, contract for deed, or similar arrangement in which the title is not transferred from the seller to the buyer to be a disposition, as sale agreements are not subject to 38 U.S.C. 3714. These sale agreements do not require prior approval from the servicer or VA. Borrowers inquiring should be cautioned that any borrower considering a sale in this manner would remain liable for repayment of the loan under such an arrangement. Audience, what type of arrangement is that? An installment contract where title is not transferred. What type of deal is that? Anybody?
Sub two. It's a sub two deal.
Uh, if you just say sub two, I'm going to assume that you
Okay,
also
a
include a
mirror
title
wrap.
transfer. Nope, a mirror wrap, a wraparound mortgage or a deed of trust, that is a transfer of title and you're giving a mortgage. Because if you don't receive title, you can't give a mortgage interest
You're
back
right.
to the
You're right.
person who
You're right.
sold it to you. Yeah, we're getting into the weeds here. Ava says
Okay.
contract for deed. That is correct. Contract for
Yeah.
deed or land contract.
Left country.
That's
Yes.
that's it. So title cannot transfer to the person. Even if you did a lease of 3 years or longer with the option to purchase, that's invalid or that's a violation of due on sale. However, a contract for deed itself is not. How interesting. So when somebody does a VA loan, sub two, if they're not doing a contract for deed, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. Why? Why would you ever? Unless you're in Texas where the contract for deed is all but useless. That's a whole, I can spend 30 minutes on that, but I won't. You just don't do contract for deed in Texas. So you can do a land contract or a contract for deed, agreement for sale, executory contract, whatever you want to call it, depends on what state you're in. that is not a violation of due on sale for the purpose of the VA loan. Let's look at this one more time. Certain transfers do not require approval. Loans may not be accelerated due to these types of transfers. This is section S. It's unrestricted transfers. And on the next page, we connect the dots. VA does not consider a sale an installment contract, contract for deed. They literally say it. Anything in which any arrangement in which title is not transferred. Welcome all of you on Instagram. I see a lot of joining. You guys can hit the actual live Zoom on creativetc.io/event. Find me there as well. I'm sharing screen. So contract for deed is by plain language reading, because I'm not an attorney, looking at it plain language, they can't call due on sale when you buy it with a contract for deed. So why wouldn't you? Boy, that's pretty cool. Now, in other news, Kansas just came out with a Kansas Contract for Deed Act, and I think it takes effect in July in Kansas, but it restricts you from selling on a contract for deed if you do not have fee simple ownership title to the property. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, only VA loans are protected by that. Like they're due on sale proof, quote unquote, if you buy it on a contract for deed. But Kansas is going to ban the selling on a contract for deed if you don't hold fee simple title to the property. What situations are we talking about where that might ruin the deal? It would force you to double close to gain fee simple title in order to sell on a contract for deed. That's one of the first things. But one of the things it kills for me is the soft wrap. The soft wrap is where I buy on a contract for deed and then sell on a wraparound contract for deed. I'm still legally obligated on the first contract for deed back to the seller, and I downstream sell it to somebody else who's then accountable to me. I've got renters that haven't paid rent, and I still pay my mortgage. I make sure that stuff gets paid. I'm going to stand in the middle of any of those types of deals. But in Kansas now, as of July, I won't be able to buy on a contract for deed and then also sell on a contract for deed. So I would have to actually acquire legal title to the property in order to sell it on a contract for deed. And I'd have to acquire it by buying it either naked sub two or on a wraparound mortgage where I actually receive title. So that stinks a little bit, FYI.
Can I ask you a question regarding this
Yes.
contract for deed?
Yep.
I saw like a little short of Pace. He bought a property in Montana, and basically he bought a contract for deed, and contract for deed does not transfer the title. It just
Right.
controls. He controls, but he says I just control the deed. So here's the thing that I don't understand. So he says, so they signed over the deed over to me.
Yep.
We put the deed in a safety deposit box.
Yep.
That's how it works.
That's no. That's how he made it work.
Ah,
You
okay.
okay, so in a normal contract for deed situation, you are going to you're going to use a loan servicer most often. And that third party, whether it's an attorney or a loan servicer, by the way, Instagram, the question was, um, can you just hold the warranty deed in a contract for deed? And that's not always the same. It's not always the same thing. So yes, you can do that, but that the normal circumstance is a third party ends up holding the pre-signed warranty deed. That's basically like if I get a mortgage, if I give somebody a mortgage, actually, if I'm the borrower, I'm giving a mortgage to somebody else because the mortgage is their right to foreclose. I'm going to ask them to sign a release of mortgage and put it with my servicing company so that if and when I fill it out or finish paying off, they've already got a pre-signed release of deed of trust or release of mortgage that we can just close out. With a big mortgage company, it's not that big of a deal. With individual lenders, you probably want the pre-signed release to be held by that third party so that you don't have to go chasing them down to find them and get them to release the mortgage or deed of trust because you're using a third party servicer. So the same thing is true in a contract for deed. The satisfaction of the contract for deed ends up in what? A warranty deed. You actually get the full legal title at the conclusion when you satisfy all the terms and requirements of your contract for deed. So with that in mind, especially considering an individual seller who may move to Alaska or Morocco, it may be very difficult to reach that person in the future when they need to sign the warranty deed over to you. So the idea is they pre-sign it, pending satisfaction of the contract for deed terms. And a third party holds it. And then when you finish paying according to the loan servicer, they will let you record they will, yeah, release to you the warranty deed so you can record it. That's the
Okay.
normal course of operations. Now, in some circumstances, oh, hold on, Instagram. There we go. Now, in some circumstances, probably with Pace's deal there, the contract for deed is a safer route, but they would have sold naked sub two, right? There's plenty of times where a seller's like, yeah, you can just have title and as long as you take over payments. I'm not going to negotiate myself into a corner if I don't have to. I like flexibility. So if I've got the deed and I don't have a wraparound mortgage, that's what I call a naked sub two. It is a risky position. There's lots of people who shouldn't be doing it or assigning it to randos. I'm a responsible person. I'm okay to structure that deal for me where I take title. So if I've got a seller that's willing to give me title anyway, and I just simply need to get to structure it as a contract for deed as a means of reducing risk of due on sale or something like that, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I'm going to have them sign the warranty deed. And if they were going to give me the deed anyway as a naked sub two, then why not also actually give me the deed now? And I'll just keep it in a safety deposit box or my filing cabinet because literally it's not a reduction in their security that they were expecting. They didn't negotiate this level of security and now we're giving them this level. They negotiated this level of security with me, and we're giving them this level of security. On the outside, it looks like we're giving them this level of security with a contract for deed and a third party held warranty deed, but that's technically, they were okay giving me the deed anyway. So just give me the deed and I'll record it when I need to, when it's convenient. I'm still going to comply by the terms. I still have to comply by all the terms and conditions of the agreement we entered into. So absolutely, I would still like to have the warranty deed signed by the seller at any time I'm doing a contract for deed, whether I get to hold it or I have to have a third party servicing company do that or an attorney.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Really good question. Those are some of the finer details that nobody explained to me. I had to figure that out the long way, the hard way, way down deep in the details of transactions. One more time, Instagram, thank you for joining. You guys can actually join the live Zoom at creativetc.io/event. We are live there. And if I share screen, you can see that. Oh, Eric on YouTube got the right answer about contract for deed when I asked that. I just didn't look at that chat. Okay. I have another question here. You're coming to every call from now on. Do you need a live contract write-up, Evan? He's on the phone. Okay. Does anybody else need a copy of that VA pamphlet? Do you guys have a copy? Raise your hand or somebody else help in the chat download and re-upload it for them. Okay. Adriana, hello. Can I have you on
Hey,
camera?
hey, Caleb. I'm actually Mike and Adriana here. Let's turn
I
on.
was gonna
There we
say
are.
you sound
Yeah,
rather
I'm not,
to quote
I'm not
Austin
as good
Powers, you
looking.
sound rather
I'm not as good
mannish.
looking. Uh, all right. So
This is the all the information there.
yeah, we put a bunch of stuff in the chat, but
Okay.
the big thing is we have a property right now in Arizona. It's a little bit rural. We got it under contract. The biggest thing about the property is that it's uninsurable. So
Why?
there was a hailstorm 10 years ago. Owner claimed it. The insurance company gave him two middle fingers, and then he was like, screw the insurance company. I'm going to do it myself. And then he repaired it with basically a bunch of Mexicans and has no service papers or anything on it. And that's the biggest thing. And then there's a good amount of deferred maintenance, like some of the railings need to be replaced, things like that. We spoke with an insurance broker who told us, here's everything you need to do to get it underwritten. Like if you complete this checklist, then you're going to have it and it's going to be insurable. We've gone ahead and we've
Is that the
gotten,
link that you sent me, or is that different?
no, that's a
Okay.
checklist we got
Okay.
from
Okay.
someone else who
Yep.
specializes in commercial stuff. And so then they told us what we needed to do, and we've gone ahead and we've gotten contractor quotes on everything. And
Mm.
so we're waiting to go back and renegotiate and basically drop the hammer
Yeah.
uh, and be like, hey, we overestimated based on the cost. We didn't know it needed all this, and here's where we're
Right.
at.
Whoa, yeah.
And I guess my questions and what I don't know if it's the best is because it's uninsurable. would that still be a deal for a cash buyer? Would that be better for
Yeah.
something like a
Yep.
contract for deed?
Um, well, if there's any lending on it, they're going to require insurance. So if it's uninsurable, then cash is the only option unless the repairs get made as a condition of sale.
Got
how
it.
much
Okay.
how much work needs to be done. So let me restate for the people on Instagram. There's a couple of people watching on there who didn't hear the question. There's a property that's uninsurable, but they basically you guys got a scope of work for the remediations required to make it insurable, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so the question was, is that a deal for a cash buyer? Who's that a deal for? Somebody with the actual cash is ideal because they can actually take it down and all of the risk is completely and entirely on them. They don't have to carry insurance on something they don't have debt on. But any lender is going to require an insurance policy. Uninsurable is subject to each insurer's evaluation, by the way. So depends on what the situation is, what the specific repairs are. But you could just find a really expensive policy for a short term while you wait for repairs to be made. But also, I'm trying to think through this where if you if the buyer had enough cash to make those repairs specifically, so they had accurate, complete scopes of work from the contractors who would do the work, then a lender may approve it contingent upon those repairs being completed by like the buyer's separate cash being used on a dedicated like committed to one of those accounts that pays contractors that they make draws from.
Got it. Okay, that makes
And
sense.
they might provide provisional insurance during that renovation period as long as the property remains unoccupied and blah 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 blah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, a couple other pieces of information. We do have owner financing on it.
Okay.
So the agreement was 20% down, interest only for five
Oh
years.
yeah, I hold on, I totally forgot about that. So you've got owner financing. I,
Yes.
I said any lender would require insurance, but the current owner who doesn't have insurance might not carry insurance on, or might not require you to carry insurance because they understand it's uninsurable.
Yes. And so
Yeah,
that's what we had situated. And I mean, I wasn't sure if I'm overcomplicating the process, but some of the potential dispositions that I was thinking about were using a commercial master lease to hedge the risk for whoever the end cash buyer is, or doing a contract for deed. So again, they
like a
don't have
lease with rights to renovate.
yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that or
okay,
uh the other thing is going back and then renegotiating and just saying, hey, here's what we have to do to fix it up. We want to apply this to the down payment and defer the monthly payments another 6 months while we get it done.
sure. Yeah, you're definitely talking a custom situation that not very many lenders are going to play ball for.
What would you do in this situation if it were your deal?
I always try to think about that. What's your exit strategy, your goal? To wholesale it?
Yes, on this one, yeah.
And you already you've closed on it with owner financing or you have it under contract for owner financing?
Under contract.
How much cash is needed for repairs to make
Uh
it insurable?
right now the quotes are coming out
Like
to about
80 to
a
100
hundred.
bucks.
Or 100 is what it's coming out to.
I feel like if the repairs are 100,000, the property is probably three, four, five, 600,000. What are we looking? Or more?
No, it's so 840 is pro forma value on it.
Okay, cool. Great. That's enough. If I feel like a hard money loan, which is going to be flipping expensive, might be the option there for the buyer. But you've got seller financing on it.
So they would just get a
How
construction
much
loan
down?
probably. It's
Yeah.
20%. So
Okay.
basically it's 140 down is what we got it at.
Yeah. It's like the seller financing doesn't benefit you here. You've negotiated seller financing, which is great, but unless that seller gets 140,000 up front, they're you can't close on it and then start renovations. If the seller's the only financer on the property, you don't have to have insurance if that's the hurdle.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if a cash buyer would want it in that situation. If that's too much risk for a person's appetite.
I I think your buyer's pool is limited, but clearly identifying what the needs are and if you've got scope of work from contractors for the work to be done, just clearly explaining this property is currently uninsurable. It's going to take about $100,000 to get it insurable. So if you are actual cash or have a hard money lender who will work with that situation and lend for rehab budget, then this is a deal.
Cool. That makes perfect
But
sense.
yeah, you're going to spend 7 days on the phone trying to explain everything unless you come up with a succinct way, like make it an attractive deal and then get yourself some bullet points. I'm no dispo master, okay? But every time I have a deal to dispo, I get really good feedback on the fact that I just present all the information. And what we have this thing at Creative TC where we bluff it. And I think that's a military term, BLUF, bottom line up front. And so when I try to write an email, I try to just remember bluff. And I'll write that on the top of an email to people I've not worked with. Bluff, bottom line up front. This is only a deal for a person who can handle this, this, and this. And I put that in bold, and then I start doing bullet points for breakout of here's the price, here's the terms, here's the time frame or the closing date. Here's the estimated repairs to make it insurable, like just fact, 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 fact. So it's really easy for people. My goal is you can immediately look at that thing and say, oh, interesting. Let me see more. Not for me. Nope. Now I don't waste time talking to people who have to ask a ton of questions, number one. And number two, they can see enough information to actually, by the time I get to somebody who does want to talk to me, I've filtered out all the people who it's not for. It saves everybody a ton of time and it drives me insane on Facebook and other places where they post like DM for details and they're like a zip code and a purchase price and maybe a picture of the house, DM for details. I'm like, what are you talking? I don't know if this, it's not even worth my time to go explore this. It's outrageous.
Makes sense. Okay. So moral of the story is basically
Bluff it, baby.
cash buyer, get all the information up front, keep it nice and tight and succinct, and let them weed themselves out.
Yep. You're going to be, if they're using a lender, you're going to be playing by that lender's rules. Or if they have private money, I don't, I can't advocate for somebody lending private money unless they're a partner on the deal and they understand the risk.
Yeah, in this case, I mean, with the owner financing, the debt service coverage ratio is very favorable. So, like, it's already
How
going to
long is
have
the owner financing?
5 years.
Okay. Commercialish. Um, if you could pull the 140, so you have to have 240 plus your assignment fee to close.
I mean, what I would like to do is have him basically drop the down to 40 and
Yeah.
then
Credit the repairs to
push
your down
push the
payment.
payments back 6 months. That's
Oh
my
yeah, because the repairs were bigger, so you still have to go back and renegotiate down. Yeah, you need to bring the cash to close way, way, way down. So let's say that you got it down to 150 cash to close, including closing costs and stuff. Like you need to get that number and show how you got the number. That's one of the things that I get good feedback on when I dispo, and I don't dispo often. It's like here's the numbers I'm going to show you. This is my pro forma. Here's where the numbers come from. I've documented my assumptions. You can run your own math. Very simple, very easy to like, oh, okay, well, he's more conservative on this number. I don't think that's accurate. He's way less conservative on that one. I don't think that's accurate. So I tweak this one up and that one down. And okay, now I know these numbers either work or don't work for me.
cool.
Yeah, so try to figure out what your cash to close is, make that evident to the people you're trying to do dispo to. But for somebody who's bringing private money, so if you end up talking to people, somebody who's going to bring private money to this deal, can they cross collateralize? Do you have a house with, $150,000 worth of equity that they're willing to secure against? Because that property is insurable, I can almost guarantee. So now you've got money lent against and secured by a property that is insured. That's how a lender can get security for the cash needed to do this deal. If the seller's willing to finance uninsurable, the 80% of the property or 90% or whatever we do here, then how about we finance the part that's needed against a different property that somebody owns? So now, again, that narrows your buyer's pool a little bit, but I'm coming up with ways that this person, if somebody really wants to get the deal done, hey, find somebody who's got a property with some equity and we can secure a private loan against that.
Got it. In construction loans wouldn't be an option, or would they still be an option in
A
this?
construction loan is going to only be against the actual property you're working on.
Okay. And so
Not,
because the
yeah, not
property
not
is
cross
uninsured,
collateralized.
but because the
So
property is uninsurable, would a construction loan then not apply in this case, or?
that's what I don't know. A construction loan may be willing to do an otherwise uninsurable property. because it's for the sake of construction. But again, when that comes in, it's going to wipe out the seller finance. The seller finance is null and void. It is useless if a construction loan is going to come in because they're not going to accept any second position. No company that does lending as a business is going to allow you to close with two loans on the property. They
I
don't
see.
want to be second position. They want to be the old. So maybe I missed making that clear earlier on when I said the seller finance is kind of useless. The only way that the seller finance is useful is if somebody's willing to go in second position as a private lender with an uninsurable asset, or a private lender comes in, or even an institutional lender can secure debt against another property. Even still, they don't like second position. But you're probably not going to close with two loans secured against this property.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So, okay. In this case, then just do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Just like a whole list. Let me zoom in. All the
Yeah.
fine print.
So we're a little bit stuck on the due diligence checklist.
Yeah.
As I shared this link, it has like a lot of things that we need to do. Someone that told us that we had to do that. Then some other people are saying that you don't need this, you should just focus on a tiny checklist. So we're trying to find out what's a due diligence checklist that we need to follow once we have a property under contract.
Boy,
Specifically
that
commercial property
Commercial
too.
property, yeah.
yeah, and I haven't done a ton of commercial property, but I mean, this is a whole checklist for getting an entire deal done. This is the to-do list for an entire deal. It's 84 items. Um,
Déjalo.
yeah, I mean, gathering the information, like review tax bills for the past 3 years, verify utilities costs. Yeah, if you're trying to verify what the actual costs are and what they're going to be, that's absolutely information that you want. So that's information request from the seller. Show me the tax bills for the property, but that's public record. You should be able to look that up. Show me your utility records. Show me your actual, not a pro forma, not like show me your actual QuickBooks export, profit and loss. Where did all the money go for the last, your T12 or actually T36? Usually people go with T12, but if you're looking for 2 or 3 years history, you can do that. But yeah,
Okay.
this list of documents, whatever the seller can produce, but I'm guessing if they're holding an uninsurable property, they don't have really good documentation. If I had to
Yes.
guess, they don't
Yeah.
have most of the stuff here, and you're not going to force them to go produce it. You're not going to be able to.
Okay.
Okay, and do you recommend doing inspection, appraisal, or survey? Or that's the buyer, or we do it as a seller, or
If you're just wholesaling, I would not spend money on an appraisal. It's I'm inspections maybe, but again, it's going to be buyer's due diligence, and you're not the actual buyer. You're structuring and putting a deal under contract then sell the contract. If you want to offer that, I'm sure somebody would be happy to look at an inspection report. And that may make it easier for you to, but I mean, you already need $100,000 worth of repairs. So an inspection report's just gonna, I mean, you could focus an inspection report on, are there structural issues other than this major problem I'm already aware of? I'm looking for any other gotchas that are going to kill me, that are going to be a budget buster or something like that. Yeah, that can be a huge value add, especially if you make it easily available to your potential buyers.
okay.
How much
Makes
is
sense.
that going to cost? I mean, 500 to 1,500 probably, somewhere in that range, depending on what the size of the property and the type of inspection.
Okay. So moral of the story then is just renegotiate our down, get our costs to close way, way down, get the terms pushed out. So whoever, if they're gonna do the actual construction piece, they could do it without having to make monthly payments at that time.
Do we still
Yeah.
keep their financing, or we have to change that as well?
Well, it depends on what your buyer brings. If they bring cash to close for the gap, like the down payment and stuff, then yeah, seller financing is great. But if they choose to buy using a lender, the lender will not accept the seller financing. So they'll just pay the seller out.
Yeah, and I can't see them choosing to bring a lender because
Yeah.
any hard money is going to be probably 10 to 12 points, and he's at an 8% interest only. So
Okay. Yeah. Oh, 8% interest only for 5 years, huh?
yeah,
Not bad.
yeah,
Not bad at all. Okay. Makes sense.
sweet. This is
How-
hugely helpful. So
I
thank you so
know.
much. Yeah,
So
I'm
fun this
happy.
call.
yeah.
What is your relationship with the seller? Do they know that you're looking to be a connector, a wholesaler, or do they think you're actually going to be the renovator?
He kind of doesn't care. He's
Okay, fair
he's
enough.
a man. He's a man of very few words, and our calls are like here's what's happening. He's like, okay.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
that's like it's like 3 minute calls and they're like that. And he's just an older guy and he's sick and tired of this thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I
He
know the
wants to
type.
travel and all of his notes are he has all his rents written down by hand
Oh
and like
yeah.
yeah, no digital record keeping, any of that stuff. So he's got to go to the print shop to scan stuff to send it to us, like doesn't have a computer type of guy. So in
So
his case, he wants to just live his life right now and stop managing this thing.
gotcha. You could do the master lease where you just take over operation of it. So yeah, now that I know more about that, a master lease with the existing leases in place, if it's actively tenanted,
Yeah, fully occupied.
yeah, you could do the master lease from him with the option to buy while, yeah, that would be an attractive offer, I think, to some people is you get in like what's the lowest down payment I can give this guy for the option to buy or master lease payment where I can still cash flow this thing and do repairs and then finish buying it as soon as I finish making the repairs. But that's the problem. There's so many options. That is a very good viable option, but it's one of many.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I don't see in that list is an estoppel. Have you seen an estoppel? Do you know what it is?
No.
No.
Let me throw it on screen for you guys. Are you on mobile?
No.
Computer, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Beautiful. I'll zoom it in. Hang on for the audience. Instagram, you can join at creativetc.io/event. I'm sharing screen on the Zoom, actually, by the way. Okay, an estoppel agreement. This protects everyone. I put a little thing at the top. They protect everyone's interest when a property is sold with tenants in place. Allows tenants to declare for the new property owner manager what written and verbal agreements. So if I have a tenant, for example, um, and my fridge breaks, if it was included in the unit, and they say, "Hey, can you just? I don't want to. I want a bigger fridge," and I'm like, "I can't afford a bigger fridge." They're like, "Well, can I buy it?" And I'd say, I'd probably say yes. Well, at that point, we have this verbal agreement. Maybe it's written, maybe not, where they buy the fridge. Well, is it my property or theirs? Well, we need to declare that. Typically, if they buy the fridge, they're buying it for their benefit, and when they move out, they're taking it. Okay. So the estoppel agreement allows for the discovery of things like that are not written as addendums to the lease where they really should have been. So, oh, actually, he owns the fridge. The tenant owns the fridge in unit 17 and things like that. So you get the address and you describe what type of lease it is. Is subleasing allowed to this person? It's just reconfirming what you should see in the lease. And so ideally, it's a signed written lease and you get a copy of the actual lease and this estoppel agreement signed by every tenant. And you compare what's the actual lease say, what's the estoppel say, what's the difference? And we did this with a 40 unit, my team did recently, a 40 unit property. And the seller didn't have written leases for all of these people and started giving us a lot of trouble when we asked to have estoppel signed from the tenants. So that's fun. Uh, you're on a laptop. I'll download this and send it to you as a doc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And when they don't have written agreements with the lease, because there's a good probability that he doesn't.
We have
Right.
leasing
You have
agreements.
leasing agreements?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Okay. I put it in the Zoom chat for you. You can download a copy of that. So
Sweet.
if they have a verbal agreement instead of a written agreement, this is the chance for them to declare what the agreement is. And the current landlord can say, that's BS. I didn't agree to that. And this gives you a chance to flesh all that stuff out before you close. And now you're trapped and married to these people who have terms other than what you thought. Because it's a little too late to litigate or to, well, I mean, I guess you can litigate. It's a little too late to negotiate when you've already bought the property. So again, the estoppel agreement helps establish what rights people actually have. Legal names for all the people, start date, end date, and then you build a spreadsheet of all these leases if the seller didn't. And we had to do this. We put together a spreadsheet with the start and end date of all the leases, whether they were official or unofficial. And then we could flag things that were coming up for renewal within the next 90 days. And by golly, wouldn't you know, 70% of the leases are coming due or finishing up in the next 60 to 90 days. When we started to do this deal, I said, hey, you have a major risk because these renters like this landlord, the current owner. There's like family ties and stuff. And if their leases end, there may be a loss of goodwill just natural to the transaction. And you could lose, a good chunk of your renters just because. Is that going to kill you? Is that going to kill the deal? And they're like, wow, yeah. So that's why this is part of due diligence. I hope that's helpful for you guys to understand.
Yeah,
List
hugely.
tenant owned appliances. Do you have any pets? And then who pays for each one of these things? Tenant or landlord? Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, we
Anything
have that.
else? Okay.
We don't have
Services.
it on the tenants though. That's what he's saying. The stop loss getting the
We have it on
tenant.
the
Yeah,
community.
the tenant needs to sign this. So at the bottom, let's look at the bottom.
Okay.
Signatures, the tenant. I attest that this is all true. So the tenant signs, and then the landlord reviews it and says, "Yeah, Joe's full of BS. I'm not signing that. He's supposed to mow the yard, and he said I'm mowing the yard. That's not true."
Okay.
Are there any problems related to are there repairs needed that I'm unaware of? Stuff like that. Do you have a security deposit? Do you know how much it was? And then does Adrian and was it Mike?
Yeah.
Hey, look at me go. Do you guys have the um does your contract say anything about assignment or transfer or proration of rents and security deposits?
I have to double check. I know it does, but I forget what it says.
Okay. Let me pull what I've got in my contract. Oh, hold on. And I'll put it in the chat.
Bring it
You guys
to.
should just use my contract all the time. Hang on, let me find it. Bing, 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 bing. Occupancy. Here we go. I'll put it back on screen. Share.
Yeah, open up the contract. See what we got.
I will zoom it in. There. All right. So if it's leased, a seller shall transfer to buyer at COE all tenant security deposits and prorated rents. If your contract doesn't say that, guess what? It's up for debate. And that can hold up a closing or kill a deal. That's a lot of dollars to be playing with on a multi-unit property. Okay. Make sure your contract says that. I'm going to put that in the chat, number one, just that phrase. But then the next piece, I just, I try to put myself in people's shoes a lot. And here's one of the things that I would care about. I'm going to make this checkbox. Sellers shall not renew or enter into any long-term leases with current or prospective tenants as of the effective date. So when this purchase contract is signed, without the written approval from the buyer. Any existing lease that expires during the contract period may be allowed to continue on a month-to-month without notice to the buyer. So basically, I'm reserving to the buyer the right to review and say, no, 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 I don't want any new 1-year leases or 3-year leases renewing
You should tell.
until I've taken ownership of the property. Anybody who's already there can continue month to month. You don't have to talk to me. But after that, other than that, if you're making changes, you don't have authority to do that without my approval. Because what if you planned on increasing rents and 6 leases out of 14 came due and they renewed for 3 years at a price lower than what you wanted? Golly, that would stink.
You have
You
that.
know? So let me throw this in the chat for you guys too. Scrape that and put it in your contract or just use my contract. Okay, there we go. I love this. What else can I do for you?
You got any questions, Will?
Fernando says golden, all caps.
Really?
How often do you do these calls?
Every Thursday for 1 hour, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday for a half-hour piece twice a day. So like we've got now I'm live streaming on Thursdays for 1 hour, but the other ones are just like if nobody shows up, I'm in a Zoom for a half hour, doing emails. So you guys can pop in anytime. I want to provide as much value as possible, but I'm also going to ask people, make people aware of Creative TC. We have the expertise. We know more than other people. We try our very darndest to be and do the best.
No, your content's amazing. I just have
Yeah.
to say that. Like I nerded out on your stuff on YouTube, and like the you guys just go to a level of depth that most people don't go
Yeah.
to, and it's
I got
really,
sick and tired of the
really
service
cool.
level stuff, man. Like,
Yeah,
guess why I started a transaction coordination company? Because I wanted to touch the inside of all the deal types. Because I
yeah,
can learn faster
I
by
can
doing that.
tell. You enjoy the actual discovery of learning these situations and figuring out, oh, this is this weird situation, and in that weird
Yeah.
situation, this is what I do. And a lot
Yeah.
of other people just do it the one way that they know how to do it. And so it's like your stuff has been massively helpful. So I do owe you a big thank you there.
Well, thank you. I
Um,
take ribeyes.
What's
I
the
take
name of
frozen
those
ribeyes
30
by mail.
minutes?
Say
What's the
what?
name of those 30 minutes so we know when to join the link?
Okay. Yeah, if you want to register for those, you'll get notifications at creativetc.io/event. You can sign up
Oh,
for either the weekly Q&A that's this or the daily 30-minute. By the way, I'm traveling next week, so I won't be hosting the daily or this one.
okay, perfect.
So
Thank
next week's out. But otherwise, thank you, Fernando. creativetc.io/event. You can sign up to get notified when we go live. I go live on Instagram on Thursdays. I might do it on the other days, but the office hours, the little 30-minute sessions are just like, you got a question, show up. I don't live stream it. I record my side in case I come up with some genius thing to put on YouTube, but
Hey, quick question, Caleb.
yeah.
you. Definitely.
I got a notification at 12:45 a.m. that you were going live. Was that a mistake?
Okay, apparently so. I'll tell my tech person.
I figured it was 1 a.m.
12:45.
1 8. Say you were going to go live soon, so I figured it was a mistake for 1 a.m.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm in Kansas, dude. Is anybody else in Kansas? We had a crazy storm last night. Insane. Just like a strobe session outside. Constant. Raindrops as big as your pinky finger, just slamming the
Jeez.
man for hours on end.
one question for you, Caleb, is for your TC services, are they specific to Kansas or are you doing
No.
all over the place?
The only place I don't do TC is New York and New Jersey.
I thought you were gonna say California.
Actually, I do California. We're okay with it.
Okay,
There are
cool.
so we also I have the ability to record in most counties across the US. I can't record in California. They don't allow me as a non-registered title agent in the state of California, not an attorney, not a, whatever, several things. So I can't record in California directly. I can't record in Texas, and I can't record in Georgia. And there's a few other counties that don't have electronic recording at all anyway. But for the most part, if you're doing deals anywhere else in the country, I can record deeds, mortgages, memorandums, et cetera, directly with the county electronically. Well,
Can you
so
do
can
North
anybody by
Carolina?
using deeds.com, to be fair, but it's a pain. We've got it figured out. We navigate this stuff faster.
Can you do North Carolina?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
I mean, we got to check on a county by county basis.
Oh, okay.
The further northeast you go in the country, the more restrictions there are, and the less likely we are to. But it's all spotty. It's like this county does and this county doesn't.
Got it. Okay.
I think there's like two counties in Arkansas that I can't for whatever their private reasons are. I'm like, oh, okay. I've recorded stuff by having somebody walk it in or mail it in as well. Actually, here's a hack. If you need boots on the ground, just a delivery, you know who's really fast? Food delivery services. Uber. You know who's looking for tips? Food delivery services. Uber. So why not give yourself an Uber ride from a FedEx Kinko's to a seller's house if you need a document delivered or pictures taken or something like that? Like order a sandwich from the FedEx Kinko and have it delivered there. And like whenever you get your Uber ride or your sandwich order confirmed, talk to your driver and say, hey, you want to make 50 extra bucks? What do you mean? I actually do real estate and I need some photos. Can you go snap some smartphone photos and send them to me? I'll send you a tip either through the app or your Venmo or whatever direct. Like that's probably one of the fastest, cheapest ways to get some boots on the ground action without having to wait on Facebook.
That's such a good idea.
Dude, that's one of my I came up with that. People throw situations at me and I'm like, let's try this. And like that one came to me a couple of years ago and it's like, oh man, that's real niche, but it's like I like that one a lot.
That's
You've
good.
shipped parts. Fernando has shipped parts from San Diego to LA. You mean like With an Uber driver?
Yeah. Put him in the back
Wow.
seat and said, "Hey, go drop him off like this." Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it as
Pretty.
cheap as a same day delivery service?
Yeah, it was just they were really heavy. They were heavy parts. They were car parts.
Oh.
So yeah,
Oh,
just
so it's probably
put
cheaper
'em-
than a
Oh
same
yeah.
day
Oh
delivery
yeah.
service.
Yeah.
Oh,
For
wow.
sure.
Oh, you
Cheaper
got to
and
strap
quicker.
those down to pallets and use a box truck only. How about this Uber Super XL?
Exactly.
I guess,
I
Caleb,
love
I
it.
have a question for you specifically to your like what you guys do and how it fits in. So
Yeah,
with a transaction coordinator, right now we're working a deal in North Carolina.
sure.
And so in North Carolina, it's an attorney state. So typically
Yes.
things go through attorneys and then they'll send it for title insurance and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that whole process, how do you fit in working with the attorneys? And what would it look like, say, for example, if we work with you and have a closing attorney in North Carolina?
I butt heads with attorneys a lot. A
Yeah,
lot.
which is,
Um,
I would prefer
That's
that
what we
actually.
need.
Yeah.
it actually is. The people who I mean, if you listen, closing attorneys and title companies' jobs is to get deals to the finish line. For the most part, they will get to the finish line. Do they get done the right way? That's a major question. Number one. Number two, do they include all the paperwork that you care about? Who's advocating for you? I mean, they have to do their jobs, right? So we trust them to do their jobs. The deal will get closed, sure. But are they advocating for you to get it done the right way? Are they using a really generic power of attorney, or have they spent hours and hours adding little bits and pieces to their documents like I have to make sure that the contract sets you up for success? Specifically, explicitly calls out the permissions. Because have they had to ever cash a check from an insurance company using a power of attorney? Doubt it. Guess who has? So, based on feedback and real world experience, I'm bringing paperwork templates giving to you. Now, I'm a consultant. Let's just be clear about that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA or any of that stuff. I'm not an advisor, not a licensed agent. I have templates that I continually tweak for my own deals. That when you work with me as a consultant, I provide you my templates for use in your deal. I'll pre-fill them with the details of the deal. That's the transaction coordination. The coordination is administrative assistant, right? It's just handle emails, phone calls, make sure people stay on time. And for us, a lot of it ends up being explaining things. So that's where we go from coordinator to consultant. And when an attorney says something and hands you something you don't understand, guess what? I can read legalese. Now, me interpreting it's going to say, I will preface this every time. If this were my deal, I would think and do this. You can choose and do accordingly. My job is to make sure that you make informed decisions. I can't make them for you. I can't negotiate on your behalf. I can definitely go head to head with attorneys and debate the terms of a contract. In fact, I just did one in South Carolina. There's a mess of a JV, 5 or 6 partners at odds with one another. They're having a tough time of it. I get it. Their LLC operating agreement sucked. Their resolution to sell property sucked, and several other things. Instagram had to refresh. And they called me in and I said, "You guys, this what do you want me to do? I can't charge my regular this isn't regular transaction coordination." And they said, "Just come on as a consultant, straight up hourly." So I was there, spent a bunch of hours just hosting phone calls to help them understand their own operating agreement because they're going to tear themselves apart and get attorneys involved and it's going to get real expensive. So I got them all on the same page and they were able to close. And they're like, "We never should have entered into the agreement without you." I try not to brag a whole lot, but I'm pretty proud of that. It's a pretty big deal. And so even when attorneys are involved in title companies, to your point, yeah, the deal will get done, but I think the deal is going to get done better with a set of eyes like mine and my team's on your deal, asking
Totally.
questions, right? They're not going to tell you, "Hey, you need an estoppel." They might mention it, but they're going to say, "Oh, I don't know, I can't give you a template." I just gave you one for free on the Zoom. Like anytime we see that stuff, we're like, "Hey, make sure you can decide not to do it, but I'm going to train you on what it does, why you would want to do it, and I'll give you the template. I'll in fact go coordinate getting it handled. I'll set it up in DocuSign. I'll talk to the tenants and say, 'Hey, we need to have this signed as a condition of this transaction that's going on. It doesn't affect you. We just need to confirm the details.'" So there's a lot of those types of discussions where it really gets into the consulting, and that's where our deep experience and expertise doing deals and working with other people comes into play. It's not just shuffling papers on behalf of other people.
Yeah, I remember the video you had with the guy who had the note that he had to call. He had to actually push on the guy because he wasn't giving the money back, and like how ugly that got, and like hearing how you handled it all. That was pretty awesome.
Um, Shoot, there was a deal, Georgia, I think, and the sellers wanted to back out. Elena Tang, I love you. Kirk Tang, I love you. And thank you. I want to give a shout out to them. They flew me out to the Golden Ticket event last year sometime. I'm cranking, trying to build my business here. I don't have money for travel for that. I am going to Squat Up Summit next week. I didn't have money to travel. They're like, no, you need to be there. It's been a long time since we've seen you, since you've been in an event. We're going to get you out there. And so they're very gracious and I'm super grateful to them. I also was remembering, I'm like, how can I make this up to them? But I also remembered a long time back, I put a deal back together for them, spent probably 5 or 6 hours on the phone, which resulted in a $20,000 assignment fee that they were going to lose if I didn't act. So I'm like, you know what? I think we're even. I love you guys. Let's keep doing favors for one another. It's fun. It's fun. But yeah, you're right. I like embracing those conversations, the harder things and helping people understand. Look, it can be really expensive to be right. So it's probably time to start looking at what's practical. I don't have a dog in the fight. Let's talk about the options, the implications. You always have the option to go to an attorney, aka pay thousands of dollars to have them say the same stuff that I'm going to tell you. Actually, they're not interested in you resolving it peacefully. They get paid the most by going to court.
Yeah.
Uh, Hippocrates once said, "A man who's not his own doctor is a fool," and I think the same with being a lawyer. A man who's not his own lawyer is a fool. They'll run you around like crazy if you let them, and like the detail and everything in the contract matters. So
Yep. The comma placement and all the things.
yeah,
And I can get to that level of detail, but it's like, isn't there a peaceful resolution where I'll help you understand what you need to understand, but you guys basically, you need to make a decision. Anyways,
cool.
uh, the hour is up. Thank you for coming. Any last questions? You guys can actually hit me up, Caleb at creativetc.io. You can register for follow-up events, and we'll mail you in the middle of the night, apparently, to let you know at least 12 hours in advance.
I appreciate that, Caleb.
creativetc.io/event. Otherwise, we will see you next time.
Thanks, Caleb.